If you were to drive through Circleville, Ohio today, you'd likely pass through without giving it much thought. A small, tight-knit community, nestled amid farmland and quiet roads. But beneath that calm exterior lies one of the most chilling unsolved cases in American history. In the late 1970s, this peaceful town was rocked by a wave of anonymous letters. These weren't chain letters or spam. They were personal. They were angry, and they knew things that no one else should know. Over time, the situation spiraled into attempted murder, a suspicious death, and an innocent man who may have spent a decade behind bars for something he didn't do. This is the story of the Circleville Letters. In March of 1976, an unsettling letter arrived in the mailbox of Mary Gillespie, a school bus driver in Circleville. It accused her of having an affair with Gordon Massey, the local school superintendent. The letter wasn't just a vague warning, it was chillingly specific. The writer knew when she left for work, what route she drove, and even where her children went to school. The message ended with a demand: stop the affair or face the consequences. Mary was shaken. She hid the letter at first, thinking it might be a prank. But when more letters arrived, she finally told her husband, Ron Gillespie. He was just as stunned. Then, just a few days later, Ron himself received a letter. It was more aggressive. It warned him to protect his wife, and if he didn't, he would face grave consequences. The tension in the Gillespie household escalated. They decided to keep the letters secret while trying to figure out who might be behind them. The Gillespies confided in a few close friends. Together, they suspected a man who had a long-standing grudge against Mary. They decided to write him a letter of their own, demanding that he stop. And for a while, it worked. The letter stopped, but only briefly. Weeks later, more letters began arriving, and this time they weren't limited to the Gillespies. Other residents across Circleville were receiving messages too, each with detailed accusations of infidelity, embezzlement, and criminal activity. The writing was always the same, blocky, all caps, and eerily methodical. The envelopes never had a return address, and no one ever saw anyone deliver them. Fear began to grip the town. Everyone was a suspect. People started questioning their neighbors, their co-workers, and even their spouses. The letters were tearing the community apart. Then, on August 19th, 1977, Ron Gillespie received a phone call that changed everything. According to Mary, the voice on the other end said something that made Ron visibly angry. Without explanation, he grabbed his revolver, got into his pickup truck, and drove off into the night. Less than an hour later, his truck was found smashed into a tree. Ron was dead. The sheriff ruled the crash an accident, blaming alcohol. But there were problems with that explanation. Ron was not known to be a heavy drinker. His family insisted that he hadn't consumed a drop that evening. More disturbing, his gun had been fired once. No shell casing, no bullet, no witnesses. Just a dead man, a wrecked truck, and a lot of unanswered questions. In the wake of Ron's death, the letters did not stop. In fact, they escalated in both volume and tone. Some blamed Mary directly for her husband's demise. Others claimed the sheriff was part of a cover-up. One note read, "Sheriff Radcliffe does not trust you to get the killer of Ron Gillespie." The town was on edge. Teachers resigned. School board members received threats. Ordinary families found themselves at the center of unwanted attention. And always the same writing, the same black ink, the same accusations that left people feeling exposed, watched, and hunted. Mary's life was a waking nightmare. Each day as she drove her bus route, she found new signs nailed to fences and trees, each one with a personal attack. Sometimes they named her children. Other times they made new accusations. It was unrelenting. Then, in February of 1983, something happened that changed everything. While driving her usual route, Mary saw another sign nailed to a post. Fed up, she pulled over to tear it down. But when she did, she noticed something odd behind the sign. A box, and inside of it was a loaded gun, ringed with string and nails. A booby trap. If she had pulled just a little harder, the gun would have gone off, right in her face. Police responded quickly. The crude trap was dismantled, and the serial number on the gun, though filed down, was still partially visible. It was traced to a man named Paul Freshour. Paul was Mary's former brother-in-law. He'd recently gone through a bitter divorce from Mary's sister. He admitted the gun was his, but claimed it had been stolen from his garage weeks before. The police did not believe him. A search of his house turned up materials that could have been used to build the booby trap. Handwriting samples were taken and compared to the anonymous letters. They looked similar, but handwriting analysis is notoriously unreliable. There were no fingerprints, no physical evidence connecting Paul to the crime scene, but prosecutors pushed forward anyway. At trial, Paul maintained his innocence and said that he was being set up, but the jury wasn't convinced. In 1984, Paul Freshour was convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to 7 to 25 years in prison. If authorities thought the case was closed, they were wrong. Just months after Paul was incarcerated, the letters resumed. More threatening, more widespread, and eerily specific. Some were sent to public officials, others to ordinary residents. One was even mailed directly to Paul, taunting him. Now when are you going to believe that you are never getting out of there? What made this so strange was that Paul was being held in solitary confinement. He had no access to writing materials, and he was under constant supervision. Prison officials admitted there was no way he could have sent those letters, and yet they kept arriving. Paul was finally released on parole in 1994 after serving 10 years. He passed a polygraph test and continued to insist on his innocence until his death in 2012. No one was ever arrested again in connection with the letters, and to this day, they have never officially stopped. So who wrote the Circleville Letters? Theories abound. Some people believe Paul did it and had help from someone outside prison who kept the letters going. Others think he was a scapegoat, used to end a case the town was desperate to put behind them. There are even theories that Mary herself orchestrated some of the threats to gain sympathy or deflect blame. Still, others believe that the writer was someone in law enforcement, or at least someone with access to private files. The level of detail in some of the letters was very unsettling. It included dates of meetings, hidden relationships, and even surveillance-level information. Then there's the theory that the letters were never written by just one person, that it was a coordinated effort, a secret group within the town that sought to control or punish others by using fear and intimidation. No one knows for sure, and maybe no one ever will. Today, Circleville is back to being the quiet little town it always appeared to be, but the mystery of the letters still lingers. They tore apart families, exposed secrets, and they left a trail of paranoia and pain that lasted for decades. If you received a letter that knew your deepest, darkest secrets, would you tell anyone? Or would you wait to see what came next? Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this story and you want more strange tales like this, please be sure to subscribe. And until next time, stay curious and stay safe. And remember, some secrets don't stay buried. Some of them right back.